Hello everybody, coming to you this morning, and I have help. As you might notice, I don't have the camera in my hand. This morning Suzanne is here. This is actually a regular work day, and Bobo and Suzanne are both here, so I have a lot of great help. And so before I get started kind of looking at some stuff and showing you how I make blocking mix and visiting our babies, I just have a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about, because you know I lose my piece of paper as history serves in past Facebook Lives. So one thing I wanted to share is I've added a new free article on our website. Our website's thegardenersworkshop.com. If you go in there and go to the store and go to the flower food, like you want to purchase flower food, right at the top of the page says claim your free article, and it's called Making Your Cut Flowers Last Longer. And so it's really all about how we go about conditioning flowers using the CVBN pill and fresh flower food for our customers. So I hadn't mentioned that, and I did that a couple weeks ago, so I wanted to be sure that everybody that wanted that article could get it. So you've probably heard or seen me talk about I'm heading out of here, let's see, mid-February, and I'm gone for a long book tour, lecturing time. I'm heading to Texas to Mother Earth News, which is being held in Belton, Texas. And if anybody is planning to be there, or if you live close there, it is a great event to attend. They have like 150 workshops. I'm doing two. I'm doing Vegetables Love Flowers, and then I'm talking about seed starting troubleshooting. So it's a great time of the year for that. So bring me your seed starting questions there. I leave Texas, and then I make a pit stop in Denver for a board meeting for the Cut Flower Association. So I'll be there with all of my great cut flower farming friends, and there's a growers school that's actually going on in Denver, which I'm not a part of, but I will be attending the second half of that. And then I'm leaving Denver and heading to Seattle to the Northwest Flower and Garden Show, which is really just is the premier flower and garden show, which I have never been to. I've heard nothing but great things about it. I'm honored that I got in, and I'm super excited to go to Seattle and be there for like 4 or 5 days. So if you are in that area and you want to go to the flower show, the Northwest Flower and Garden Show, I have free tickets, y'all. And so the first person that requests them on this feed that's actually going to the show, I'll mail them to you. So I just wanted to share that and give away those tickets. Let's see. I had to have a list, or I just get so totally off track. And then when I get home from Seattle about a week later, I'm heading back to Louisiana. You can go to my events on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com. Go to, I think it's under workshops and then Lisa's events. And I'm going to be in Louisiana at a great event called Back to Your Roots, I believe it is. So that's another great one. So check those out while I'm running around, and then I'm kind of coming home to stay for the summer. So I mentioned in the feed that I wanted to demonstrate how to make the homemade recipe of blocking mix. So that's what I'm going to do here. And before we get started, just a couple of tips. First off, I have to wear gloves because my hands get so dirty, and then I can't ever. These gloves, we don't sell them, but these are the gloves that we live in on this farm. They're called Atlas Touch. We just adore them. So the homemade blocking mix is pretty straightforward, but I get so many questions about it, I thought I'll just show y'all what we do. So the recipe is always available on our website. It's also in our catalog. If you go to our website, gardenersworkshop.com, go to Learning Center, and under Learning Center is a title called All Things Soil Blocking. And under that All Things Soil Blocking, there's a long list of resources, and one of them, I think the second or third one down, is the recipe. So basically, the recipe is made up of peat moss and compost, and then some nutrients, and the nutrients are green sand and rock phosphate. So this is what I really got a couple questions about this week that really spurred me to do this. It says sifted compost and peat moss. And somebody wasn't really sure what that was, and I totally understand it because that's not something that we do a lot of these days, is sifting, right? So sifting means that you sift the product through a screen to get all the chunks out. And I don't know, can they see this down here, sister?
Yeah.
So I'm going to sift some here in a minute, but these are all the chunks I got out of some peat moss I sifted, and these are the chunks from the compost that I sifted. And I want to just give you a tip about, for the easiest and most efficient sifting, you ought to have a really dry product, meaning this peat moss is really, really dry, but the compost that I did earlier had a lot of moisture content in it, because I'm going to tell you that I just went out to the local big box store and purchased a bale of peat moss and a bag of compost. And they had several choices of compost. You want to know how I made my choice? We had monsoon rain here yesterday. I picked the bag that was the driest and the cleanest. Any commercial compost bag should be fine to use for this. And I happen to have chosen a composted cow manure compost. But it was really wet, and that's why, well, we'll see it in just a minute. That's why there's not as clean a chunks as it is with the peat moss. So this is my sift. I don't know if y'all can see the bottom of this. You'll see it clear in just a minute. And this is called a sifter. There are homemade ones. Suzanne went online, and Suzanne, what did you put in the search engine? Sifter?
1/4-inch sifter.
A 1/4-inch sifter. 1/4 inch is the size of the screen openings. And one came up that was really affordable. If you have a handyman, a guy or person around your place that can build you one out of wood frame with hard cloth, that's fine too. But I'm just going to start doing this while I'm talking to you. So this is my container that the good product is going down into. I've had to put these stakes across it because this sifter wouldn't sit on this container. You know, there's something crazy. I think I thought when I bought this that it would fit like right into a 5-gallon bucket, which would be a perfect deal. Well, it's too big for a 5-gallon bucket. I think the one Suzanne found this morning may fit. But anyway, so that's why you see this rigmarole that I'm doing. So this just takes me, she's going to come over here and show y'all up close what I'm doing. So, you know, I am just pushing it through and getting the chunks out. And I want to tell you just a couple of things that I found. I mixed my own soil for the first, I think it was 12. Whoops, we lost you almost. Suzanne's going to get fired, isn't she? So the first 12 years of farming, I made my own soil because I did not have a resource to buy it pre-made as I use now. We buy it by the sling. Anyway, I recommend that you just set aside time and make a huge volume of this according to your needs. You don't want to have to stop and do this every time you have to seed start, right? You want to do a lot. So you can see there is a lot of chunks in here. And the good stuff is falling through to the bottom. Let's just move this along. And Suzanne's laughing. I'm not sure why, but that's how baby sisters are.
It's the backlash about firing me.
Oh, she's laughing at me firing her. She wishes I'd fired her.
No, the comments.
Oh. So I can't see the comments. I can't see who's on here yet. I'm taking the phone back in a few minutes, so I'll get to see. So look at all this debris that was in that little bit of peat moss. So this is why you have to sift.
They said you should wear a mask.
Yes, I should. But we don't typically do this. So I'm just dumping, making a mess here. And we just put all the chunks into our compost bin pile somewhere. So this is what this looks like. There's a lot of homemade versions, so let's get rid of this. All right, so now you need to mix and this is really messy. I would not recommend doing it, obviously not in your home, but anywhere where somebody has to clean up after you. I tend to make a lot of messes if you ask my sister. All right, so this handy dandy tub, can they see this, sister?
Yeah.
So this tub is actually a concrete mixing tub that you, again, where you buy peat moss, the big box stores, you can pick this up. Now the cloud's getting to me, y'all. I think I paid like $8. Really, I have to have a glass of water. Right in the middle of Facebook Live, sorry. Whew. I think I had a dust ball in my throat. So this is a concrete mixing tub. You'll find it in the building supply department. They have a really big one, but I find that this one is really just the very best size. So the recipe, now that we talked about the cloud, I have to choke. First, I have to show you this too. This is called a Japanese sod cutter. I use this thing for everything. This is what I cut my peat moss open with this morning, and I went out and stole it off my tractor because I use this when string gets wrapped around my tiller. It cuts it off. We cut film with it. We cut everything with it. You can find it on our website. I think it's like $10. And you just hold it and pull it, and it cuts everything. Or you can cut plants out of the ground. Love that thing. So that's why I have it here. I used it to cut through my peat moss. Let's get rid of this chunk. All right, so I'm gonna make a recipe in here. And even though I make a lot of soil blocks at a time, like Bobo's outside doing it right now, I still find that this 20 cup or so recipe is a good working volume to just not make a mess of your blocker. And I am all about measuring. So this is actually an old Tupperware orange juice container that we have marked with 5 cups. So it takes, oh, there's more dust. Let's try not to make dust. The recipe takes approximately 16 cups of peat moss. So that's 5. You know, you get a lot more respect for people that do stuff on TV. When you have to do stuff yourself, you just don't realize. It's like, now I'm afraid my tub's gonna fall. There's 10 cups. Whew. And I'm gonna put a little smidge more to make 1 cup, because it's not perfect again, y'all. All right, so let's get rid of this old dusty peat moss. Now I want to show you the compost that I sifted before I came on screen. And this is the stuff that is so much wetter. And we need approximately 4 cups of this. And again, you can find the recipe on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com, under Learning Center, all things soil blocking. Sorry. Come on out of there. See, you can tell that this is moister. So I would recommend to you, if you buy a bag of compost, and it's almost always wet, and you're just mixing this stuff up, and because this compost is wet, you can see there's little balls in here. So I'm literally using my hands to try it. It's kind of like making a pie shell or something like that, where you're getting it to come together and get crummy. You don't want this to be crummy. So that's the dry ingredients mixed together. So what I was saying, I think it's a good idea for you to get your compost, dump it into something to let it air dry, like dump it out a day or 2 before you're going to use it. Keep it indoors. This is a heated building, so stuff dries out pretty fast. It's easier to sift it, and it would be easier to mix. So now at this point, you have to add the nutrients. The nutrients is simply green sand and rock phosphate powder. I get more questions about, where can I buy that? Well, unfortunately, it's not as easy to purchase as it was 10 years ago. When we started showing people how to make their own soil, down at the big box store, you know how you'll go to the store and you look for the fertilizers and they always have a row of little bags of stuff that says blood meal, bone meal. Well, back in the day when people were still using the original organic fertilizers, these bone meal, blood meal, green sand and rock phosphate powder used to be right there in the line with them. So it was really easy to find a little 4-pound bag, $5, bring it home, and you have enough nutrient to mix forever. Well, I would say probably about 7 years ago, they just kind of stopped making them. They still make blood meal and bone meal, but you cannot find green sand and rock phosphate powder. You can find rock phosphate granulars, but you cannot use the granular version. So it is available online. If you do search engine, green sand, farm supply stores will come up with it. You can come in, Bobo. It's a ghost. Actually, it's just Bobo. She's been out there making trays, so she's sowing seeds today. We just got yet another seed order we've been waiting for. So she's sowing stock and straw flowers today. So you can enter those into a search engine and you'll find farm supply stores that come up with 40 and 50 pound bags. There's actually, I'm going to give you a couple of tips. I'm in Virginia. There's a place called Seven Springs Farm Supply, and they sell a 10-pound bag. You're going to have it shipped. Yes, you're going to have to pay shipping. I'm sorry, that's just the cost of doing this, right? But if you happen to live near a farm supply, you might be able to find it. So it is available. However, we do offer it, the two of them mixed together in smaller portions for the average home gardener to be able to make this and to not have to buy a 50-pound bag of each to mix their own. And I gotta take these gloves off because I'm really warm. Let me get these off. So we mix them and then we package them. And this is actually the old size package. Our new bottle, am I right, sister, is twice this size. I believe it is $14 or $15, and it's probably $11 or $12 shipping because it's heavy stuff. So this is the nutrient. The nutrient we sell now will make 8 of these recipes. It's enough nutrient to use in 8 recipes. And the recipe is right on the bottle, so you always have it. So this is green sand and rock phosphate, and I need a half a cup, but Suzanne could only find me apparently an 1/8 of a cup measurer. So we need, how many of these, Bobo? Do the math.
4.
So there's 1. You know, Bobo's our resident scientist chef. So she, 2, maybe it'll pour. More dust, y'all. 3. So I'm going with 4. Is that what I'm supposed to be doing here?
Sounds good.
Okay.
1/4. Yes, that's right.
Okay. So 4. So that's the nutrient. So now this mix has all the nutrient it needs. And you know, my favorite mixer is a potato masher. And you mix the nutrient in, and voila, you have made blocking mix that will hold up, watering, provide everything the seedling needs until it goes to the garden, and really super easy to use. You know, I'm not doing a soil blocking demonstration here today. There's plenty of those on our website. At that All Things Soil Blocking, where you're going to find this recipe, right down at the bottom of the page, there's a great video. I watched it this morning to see what it said, and it shows me making the blocks. So when you go to make the blocks, this is the volume that I would use. So this is approximately 20 cups of product. So I would start off by adding 6 cups of water, using my little mixer to moisten it all, and then start making my blocks. And then I would just, when I get low, when you don't have enough soil, it's hard to make blocks if you don't have a big mound. So then I just make another recipe. So I want to give you some tips about the way that I survived mixing my own without totally losing my mind. So I would buy, if you're a farmer, you obviously need to do more volume. If you're a home gardener, you could probably, I would guess, that bag of compost that I bought, which I'm looking at it looks like it's this size bag. I would just dry it and sift the whole thing. And I would just keep it somewhere in your garage, in a garden shed, just open and dry, sifted, ready to roll. And I would do the same thing with my peat moss. I would do a larger volume of it, so when it comes time for you to make your blocking mix, you don't have to pull out the sifter. Go buy what you need. Having the stuff on hand, I tell you what is a great soil storage system is a galvanized trash can. The kind of trash cans when I was growing up, that's the kind of trash cans that we had outside for the trash truck to come and empty. It'd be great to put your peat moss, which you need the most volume of peat moss. It's 4 parts of peat moss to 1 part of compost. What that means is that this is how we make it for a home garden, what we did this morning, 4 cups of compost to 16 cups of peat moss. That's a 1-to-4 ratio. If you're a farmer and you need to do bigger volume, you can use 5-gallon buckets. So it would be 1 5-gallon bucket to 4 5-gallon, 1 bucket of compost to 4 buckets of sifted peat moss. That would make you a larger volume. And I'll tell you the greatest tip I ever got for mixing soil and high volume, you know what you use? A kid's baby plastic swimming pool. You know what I'm talking about? One of those like 4-foot blue plastic. You can dump your stuff in there and mix it all up. And then you'll have to incorporate your nutrient based on the volume of that soil that you're putting into your tub. You know what I mean? That's a lot. I wouldn't add the nutrient until you're coming time to make the blocks. So I hope that helps you, because I know we sell a lot of blocking mix, because we don't make the blocking mix that we offer. We buy it in huge slings. It's made for soil blocking. And I know shipping is killer on it. It is the best soil ever. And I want to just mention very briefly, because I read it, I see it all the time. People that are using, it's not other seed starting mixes and potting soils like Pro Mix and those kinds of things. They will surely make the blocks, but the blocks not only do not hold up because they have perlite and vermiculite in them, over the life of the block they just dissolve really, really easily. But in addition to that, we don't believe in sterile soil here. That's why there is compost in our soil. Most of those seed starting mixes that you purchase, or those pro this or pro that, they're sterile soils. And a lot of people that are writing say, my seedlings just don't grow like yours. And many times we've tweaked it down to they were using a sterile soil. It's about the difference between convention and organic, y'all. So I'm a huge believer in using a non-sterile soil, and this is how you can make it at home. You can stockpile it, be sure you sift it, and let me get my piece of paper and see what we're supposed to do now. So we just did the blocking mix, and so I'm gonna, blocking mix 4. So now I'm gonna do, Suzanne, if you wanna set that down, the tripod down and fix it on me, I'm gonna answer the questions that you guys have posted previously before this started, and then when I take the phone back over to go to the baby room, I'll scroll through and answer any of you guys' questions that you have posted this morning. So one of the first questions I had was, do I put cool flower seedlings or seeds into the chamber or to the heat mat? That's a great question. We typically use the heat mat for cool flower seeds. They're cool season hardy annuals. They prefer and germinate best, as you'll see when we walk in there, with warm soil, which being on a heat mat does that, but cool air temperature. That room, we typically leave the door open when seeds are on the heat mat, so the air temperature is like between 60 and 70 degrees. It's hard to say. It gets warmer during the late afternoon because of sun. So we do use the heat mat over the chamber, but we use the chamber for warm season stuff. So then somebody asked, do these Once the seedlings start to crack and we move them from the heat, off of the heat, do they go straight to the grow light? Yes. It doesn't matter what seed it is, they all go through the same system. They stay on the heat mat until half of the seeds in their group start to show signs of life. Then I move them from the heat mat over to the grow light, and it depends on what kind of grow light you have as to how close it goes. So then somebody asked, what's the time under the grow light? The hours per day, and then how many days? So that's a good question. Again, it's for all seedlings. That does not vary. At least I don't vary it from different varieties, from a snap to a zinnia. They're all the same. 16 hours of light a day is what it requires to grow a short, stocky seedlings. Our grow lights come on at 6 a.m. and they go off at 10 p.m. every day. Plants stay in that room under that light until they go outside under the carport to be hardened off. And they typically sit on the carport for 3 to 5 days. And then somebody asked me, can you grow cool flowers without a row cover? Well, another good question, because matter of fact, you can. It all depends, and we're going to talk about this somewhere else down here. If you're growing cool flowers that are winter hardy to your winter zone, for example, where's winter hardiness zone 7? So we typically only grow, or we only fall plant those cool flowers that survive winter in zone 7. So that means straw flowers, which are only cold hardy to zone 8, which is south of me, that's like my South Carolina friends. We're zone 7. If we fall planted straw flowers, we have to take extraordinary measures to protect them in the winter, like a row cover, double row cover. So we don't plant them. So I could technically grow everything that's out in my garden that we're going to see here, and hopefully in a few minutes, without row cover. Row cover is just added protection from varmints and wind. So somebody asked me about growing ranunculus and dealing with the cold, and I'm sorry to say that I don't grow ranunculus, so I cannot answer that question. I would ask that over in the Flower Farmer page and tag Dave Downing. He should be able to answer that for you. So somebody asked about the timing of planting and starting very early spring cool flower seedlings, because I can't remember who wrote this, but what you explained on there was that like it's all of a sudden cold, and then all of a sudden it's Mother's Day and you go from cold to 85 degrees. Well, we do that here in Virginia, but it's even worse because we get it a month earlier than you do. And that's why cool flowers, following the true cool flower planting suggestions, really helps you through that hump. So the classic recommendation is to plant cool flowers for everybody. It doesn't matter what zone you're in, 6 to 8 weeks before your last spring frost. So let's just say if your last spring frost, like mine, is April 15th, we will be planting more cool flowers mid-February. That's 8 weeks before my last frost date, right? And this frost date, what I want to say to you, people are getting a little caught up in, oh, how the weather's changing and all this. Well, that's all true. But you have to go with facts. And so the USDA publishes the expected first and last frost dates for your area. And that's based on historical information. So you just need to go with that and give up all this last year, the year before kind of stuff. You just can do the best you can do, right? So timing of the very early spring is 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. Yes, before your last frost. And I recommend only planting transplants at that time of the year. So that means you need to be starting seeds alongside Bobo here today to be able to have those big enough to go out in the garden. So then somebody asked about leaving the covers on and off when there's so much moisture outside. Well, good question. We had monsoons here yesterday. I mean, we had, I don't know how many inches of rain we got, but everything was swamped. I think the question related to does the cover trap too much moisture underneath there? That is surely possible. I would think that if you were having days and days and days of rain, cloudy weather, it might be a good idea to take the row covers down to allow it to actually breathe a little more. However, the row cover also intensifies the sunshine underneath there, so that helps it to dry out. So somebody asked about the willow that I was talking about last week. Could I talk about rooting, planting, and cutting that? I'll give you an overview, and maybe in a future Facebook I'll make that the feature. But this is those willows I cut last week, which I still haven't retrieved from church. These are some of the leftovers, and I literally just put them in a vase in some water. They haven't started to root yet, and they'll sit here for 6 weeks and get roots. Then we literally just take them out, and I usually group 3 of those sticks with roots together to plant them. And with everything else in flower farming, we plant them in straight rows on 6-foot centers. And let me lose my place. And then we're cutting them at about this time of the year, and we cut this plant back to a stump so that the next season it grows another 6 foot or so good cutting plant. If you do not cut it to the ground every winter, it'll grow into an enormous tree and take over your house. Trust me, and your sewer lines and everything else. So someone asked, direct seeded cool flowers need cover. So I think I'm not sure, I'm sorry, we'll have to look back. I'll have to look back on that question. I did not write enough notes to my direct seeded cool flowers. So perhaps what that question was, if you're direct seeding cool flowers, we do like to use row cover because that just prevents things from happening to your seeds. That just helps more germination, and it retains a little bit more moisture over a longer period. So I'll have to look back and answer that. I'm sorry, I didn't put good notes. So then somebody had a question about installing trellis netting. And I'm not going to talk about that because I'm just going to send you right to my website, thegardenersworkshop.com. Put in the search trellis, and our product, the trellis, will come up. And at the bottom of that page are 2 videos. One is looking at flower support netting, and the other one is sweet pea trellising. So you can see it right there. And so this was a long question, and I totally understand the confusion about when to put the row covers up and when to take them down. If a wintry mix is on the way, if freezing rain is on the way that's going to be followed by snow and then followed by an Arctic blast, all these things could happen like in 1 week anymore, right? Well, I did write pray after that for that person because that's really a tough situation. But here's what makes my decision. If there is any threat of snow or ice, the row covers have to come off. Because snow and ice, the tunnels that I make are wire hoops and Ag 19 lightweight row cover. They will not support snow or heavy ice. So there's really that's what you base your decision on. And then you just have to hope for the best of whatever weather follows that. So you have to take the covers down with any strong suggestion of threat of snow or ice. And then I just have to say this on camera because my husband and I laughed at the breakfast table. Actually, I read it right after I got out of bed, and we were laughing in there. And then Aaron, who I won't say your last name, Aaron, posted on the feed, my chickens ate my sweet peas. I'm thinking of eating my chickens. I totally feel for you. But all I want to say is, this is true with dogs, because I get a lot of these questions too. When you start bringing animals onto your farm, you really have to have all the matching equipment to keep them out of or in where you want them. And it's not easy. So I feel for you, Aaron. I'm really sorry about that. So then the last question I have is compost tea. Should I use compost tea in place of the liquid fertilizer when I'm watering my seedlings? Well, I love compost tea. However, I think in a concentrated situation, meaning little blocks in a tray, you need to be sure that you're providing the needed nutrient that those plants need. And compost tea can be from 0 to 100 in its quality and its nutrient value. It's all based on what compost was used, how was it made, how old is it, are the microorganisms still alive. So I love using it outdoors, but I think for seedlings, you just need a better insurance policy. You need to use commercially made organic liquid fertilizer. We use Neptune's Harvest seaweed fish. It does great. So those are all the questions and answers that I had. And now I'm going to grab the camera. I'm going to actually put my jacket on first. Is it chilly outside, Bobo?
Lovely.
So I'm going to put this on before I go outside. I'm going to take you in the plant room. And I got stuff all over me. I'm going to take the camera over and let's go see the babies. And then I'll look at some questions. And there goes Suzanne. I'm a slave driver. She's going back to work. Okay, so let's go here in this baby room. We don't have a whole lot of stuff going yet. So I'm going to turn this around. Try not to hit the wrong button. So I'm just going to show you, there's actually only 6 trays going already. Look at this Ami Magus. I shared on the last week's Facebook Live my secret method on getting great germination for Ami Magus is 1 day, 24 hours on the heat mat, then take them off the heat mat and just place them over here under the lights, and germination just takes off. This is our status. They are the sickliest looking little seedlings. They always are every year. And see, they're literally they were just moved from the light, so they're just still being born. And so we actually fall plant status also. Thanks to Jonathan, he gave us that tip 2 years ago, and we're going to go out, and that's one of the plants we're going to look at to see if it's still alive. So this is my Sweet William Amazon, and interestingly enough, this side is rose color, and that side is, what is that, purple. And they both had the same treatment. Look at the difference in germination at the rate. The rose is just coming along a little slower, so it just happens, y'all. You know, there's Suzanne. She's upstairs on Facebook. So that happens. Now look at this. You can hardly see these. This is the eucalyptus. We're getting ready to look at Dara, Lacey. This is the eucalyptus, which I haven't grown eucalyptus in several years, but it's like V-rage in foliage, and it's just now popping, and it's so dark you can hardly see the little babies, but they're in there. So this is just coming along. So the Dara, which is the Daucus, is here. I just took this off of the heat yesterday, and look, overnight it started to pop. So it's like it needs, no, it's the eucalyptus silver drop is the variety that we grow. Some of these plants just need, some of these seeds, the cool season, need some warmth to warm the seed up to start the process, but then you get rid of the heat so they can continue on. And back here, this is Billy Balls. And we're excited about that. It's that's not one I grow for a big commercial crop, but our hello, Rhonda. Okay, we'll talk gnats in just a second. The Billy Balls is a great bouquet add-in. It's a little round ball, looks like Gumphrina, but it is in yellow. So let's talk about, Rhonda asked about fungus gnats while we're standing in here. Fungus gnats, fruit flies, all those little teeny things that fly around in rooms can be a real problem. We use, and I'm just looking to see if I do, wait a minute. So, I'll see if I can't take one out. The method to the madness for fungus gnats, if you do a lot of transplanting and you have a transplant room like I do, y'all, I'm sorry, I have to set this down. You can't see anything because I'm opening this package of these little sticky traps. So if you are somebody that's growing constant seedlings, or if you have a lot of house plants, I'm just trying to peel this off so you can see it. I don't want to touch it because my fingers will get sticky. All right. So I don't know where these came from. I literally think I bought them online. They're just monitoring and trapping cards. And they are yellow. Yellow attracts certain kinds of little critters like gnats. And it comes with this paper on it and you peel it off. And then you can literally, see this clip right here? That's what it's here for. I'll clip one right here on the front of a tray. And so these little gnats love moist soil. That's where they lay their babies. And then you see the adults flying around. The other thing, I'm going to cover it and show this. I don't know, the people that make this brand, this is the liquid. It's a biological larvicide. It's called Natrol. You can look online and find that. So here is how I maintain and prevent an infestation of gnats. Is once a week, I put the Natrol in the watering can so every tray gets with their water some of that. And then we have the sticky traps up to catch the adults. Then you break the cycle by doing that. So you can catch all of them you want on those sticky traps. But if you are not killing them, the larvae in the soil, more and more will just breed and keep showing up. Our dad, my goodness, for years, he had a chronic circle that a cycle of them just not being able to get rid of them because he would not get rid of this one big potted plant he had in his house. And I said, Dad, that's where they are. You're just going to have to clean out and then start over again and start a good prevention program. So you can do it. So sticky cards and Natrol combination will do that. So I am going to walk outside and then I'll come back in and scroll through and answer the questions because the sunlight is just getting really bad out there. So, we're coming out, Bobo.
The starflowers are on the mat if you want to show them.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I will when we go back in there. All right, so the sunlight is not exactly, and I hope my Wi-Fi, we're having terrible Wi-Fi troubles. And yesterday and today we were supposed to be having our camera system installed here on the farm, but they had to reschedule because of the monsoon rain. So I am going to walk down there and lift up one row cover, and if the signal gets weak, you'll just have to hang on for a minute and I'll walk back to the building. I'm going to walk down here and take the weights off and see if this is the giant poppy pods. And I have not looked since we had that chilling 15 degrees or whatever it is. Look, they are still there. Can y'all see them? So we leafed the pathways and some of the leaves got in. So I'm afraid to go any further down there. So they look like they are no more worse for the wear, and I'm just going to leave this uncovered. There's water in these pathways. I don't know if you guys can see it. We had standing water all over this farm yesterday. So that is really, really encouraging. Let's walk down here and let's look at some transplants. Let's see if the status is still alive. The status plants looked really good. I'm going to sink. I can tell you that already. I think this is the status. We did double row cover it. Look how wet the row covers are. Status is alive. Looky there. Plants still look great. Because y'all know chickweed is a cool flower, right? It grows like a cool flower. I can't resist not pulling that. So the status survived the polar. Yep, so I lost y'all there for just a second. Sorry. So the status did survive. That was one that I really had a question about. I can't get down to the dill because it's way down there. but I think we made out really okay. What I am learning about cool flowers, look at that. Can y'all see? I will be so glad when the yellow and orange is gone from next door to my farm. And I don't know if you can see it, but there is so many birds flitting around in our little border out there. I can't wait to be able to take you guys all the way around the farm once we have full coverage. So it looks like cool flowers survived out there. And so I'm going to just stand here. Let me scroll back. Oh, my goodness gracious alive. Okay, let's see here. Morning, people. Hey, Mark and Susan. I'm just looking to see if there's any questions. Oh, so there you go. Lachelle Staley. I'd love some tickets to the Northwest show. Okay, so Lachelle, go to my website and email us and send us your address, and Suzanne will send them out today. Hey, I actually have Robin Hood. I have 2 sets of tickets. So Robin and Lachelle will each get a set. I'll go in. So Robin, you need to also go to the website, the info at Shop TGW at the top, email address. Email us your mail-in address, and we will send them to you. Hi, Nancy. So let's see. We got all kinds of people here. Where do you get the bucket? Where do you get the bucket and also that green pan you've used in other videos? So are you talking about those tubs that I was using? We used to sell those years ago, and they're called a trug tub. And there is a knockoff version out there, but ours were actually made out of recycled tires. I am not so sure they are still available, so I'm sorry to say, as the sifter that I'm using. But if you Google sifter 1/4 inch, some will come up. So I'm good. I'm glad that y'all needed to see that. Claire, I sifted some ice cubes. Oh, I sifted some ice cubes out of my compost yesterday. It is so true. I mean, it is so nice. You have to remember, it's like a Christmas reminder to bring your seed starting soil supplies indoors at Christmas to be ready in January, right? Hey, Kathy. Hey, Greg. Greg Key. I don't know if Greg is still on here or not. Greg owns Haas Tools, and they have some awesome tools. I was actually going to ask him about sending me a lopper and a saw so I can do some pruning in a couple of weeks and do some of that live on Facebook. So anyway, so check out Greg's website, Haas Tools. He and his son are great friends of ours. He has a son. It's like Greg and Travis are like Lisa and Suzanne, right? So I'm not going to fire her, Kim. I should wear a mask too. Run, Suzanne. Yeah, you're right. Let's see. Suzanne, she's the cleaner upper. No, Bobo is the cleaner upper. Suzanne gets me all the stuff, and I make the mess. So I'm looking for more questions. Hello, Wyoming. Oh, there you go. Claire's got the measurements on there. Is moisture a word? Yes. I make up words all the time. Do you put all blocks on the heat mat, including the cold hardy annuals? So, Claudia, we use either a seedling heat mat or a germination chamber. We use the seedling heat mat for the cool season hardy annuals. Are there non-sterile soils more likely to dampen off? Kathleen Johnson asked. Actually, it's the complete opposite of that, Kathleen. We experience 0 dampening off. Dampening off is a result of cool soil and cool conditions, in my experience. When I read in Elliot Coleman's book 20 years ago that, in fact, sterile soil just does not provide any protection against those types of problems, where the compost introduces microorganisms and things that help to combat that. So it's actually the opposite. Jackie, should we be starting snapdragons if we did not in the fall? Oklahoma, Zone 6B, yes. So you can plant snapdragon transplants 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost. can I use this mix for pots too? Yes, you can, but when you put it into a pot, you should add some perlite or vermiculite, because you see the difference between regular potting mix, besides it being sterile, and blocking mix is blocking mix needs to bind together to make a little block to be durable, right? Well, when you put soil into a pot, you have to make way for air and water to get through the soil, and that's what vermiculite and perlite do for those mixes. Well, we don't want that in a soil block, so you can use the same mix, but you need to probably incorporate, I would think, 25% perlite or vermiculite to make some airways. Lisa, please do another talk on irrigation using drip tape when you get time. Okay, I'll put that in my pot. Dan from Suffolk, for a simple sifter, I buy, there you go, a 1/4-inch hardware cloth and a large plastic storage container, and he cuts the bottom out and folds it up, and that's great. And actually, my first sifter Steve's grandpa made, it just doesn't fit. It was a little bit bigger than a bucket, and it's kind of sharp. Same concept. That works really, really well. Cool flowers in 5. I'm waiting until March. So I'm thinking you're saying zone 5. And so if you're in zone 5, I'm guessing your last frost date is probably May 15th or even June 1st. So yeah, you still have a little time to wait. Let's see, outside or planting seeds. I'm not sure what that is about, Claudia. It must have been about something I was speaking. Could you give us the willow grower name again? Sure. Kent Miles. You can find him on Facebook, and the name of his farm is Illinois Willows, and he sells pussy willow sticks for you to root and some beautiful selections. So yeah, that's who that is. What's Bobo seeding today? She is starting stock and straw flowers. Could you elaborate your transplant method using biodegradable mulch? How big of a hole do you cut in the black film? So let's answer that first. So yeah, we plant all transplants out into the biodegradable film. You can see the biodegradable film on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com. You can just search film on the products and it'll take you to it. And there's a video there showing how we hand lay it. We make the littlest hole possible when we're planting, because what you soon realize is the bigger the hole, the more weeds grow. So Bobo can make the smallest hole and get a plant in it. So the smaller, the better. What tool do you use to dig? Something skinny like a butter knife? Do you mean, I think you probably mean to plant, and funny, you should ask. I'm right here at it. Where is it? I just had it a minute ago. Y'all see my mess here. I just had one. Here it is. This is what Bobo often uses. This is a dibber. You can find them online somewhere. And that just makes a perfect little hole. And we drop our little soil blocks in. Do you have any difficulties deep watering into those small holes? Well, we put irrigation underneath the film. And no, and I tell you the secret, I'll have to remember once we start watering, I will do a video on that and how you flood the bed through the holes. It's quick and easy. So let's see, do you use compost tea? Yes. Do you have a recipe? That's something we ought to do on Facebook. I'll try to put that on my list of things to do. I don't know what the setup is that you thought was so beautiful. How do you set something like that up? Small germination technique for same germination. Yes, so we talked about that. We talked about so the eucalyptus. So that is annual eucalyptus, which is a little cold hardy, but we start it from seed. It's called Silver Drop. We love it. It's got a teeny little seed. And this is Bobo's, where she's been making soil blocks right here, by the way. It's got a teeny little leaf. So it's really, really usable in bouquets and just beautiful. Is eucalyptus hard to grow? It's not hard to grow. It just is a slow grower. So it is not a cool season annual, but you notice that it was just in the room with all the coolies because it's not going to get planted until mid-April. It's just so slow growing. So we talked about gnats. What kind of lights? How long do you keep them under the lights? How do you know when you need a heat mat? all seed starting needs a seedling heat mat. You can go to our website, thegardenersworkshop.com. We have small ones and big ones, and it lists on there the pros and cons of doing that. And we also have lights, Natalie. All that is on there. And yes, everybody, even greenhouse growers, have heat mat tables. So let's see. So you're welcome, Rhonda. Do you ever use more than the Agribon? So somebody's asking, do we ever use anything but that Agribon you see out there? No, I don't ever use plastic. If I feel like I need more protection, I just double the lightweight stuff. That way everything I have is the same weight and I don't have to sort when storing them. When you add plastic into the equation, it just creates a whole nother can of worms that I just don't find necessary and I'm just not really willing to do. So yeah, Robin, go on and send us your address for the tickets. So there you go. Somebody said they got a sifter. I came in late. Yes, so the recording will be on Facebook and it will also be posted on my blog. Are the covers all the same or are they different weights? They're all the same. Lightweight. We sell a 50-foot version of it for those that are home gardening, but Ag 19 if you want to buy a 5,000-foot roll like we do. Do you use multi-hole dibbler for planting your plugs? No, there are a lot of contraptions you can make, but Bobo just has gotten it down to a science. We use the flower netting. We roll it out on a bed and plant through that. You can see pictures of that in my book, Vegetables Love Flowers. Really covers a lot of the questions that were being asked here today if you want to have a resource to really go to. Those row covers are down all fall and winter unless there's snow or ice, yes. What happens to the roots of soil block once they grow out of the block? Do they grow into the blocks nearby? Yes, they can. Or do you plant them before then? That's the goal. Do you have less transplant shock? Yes. So good questions. Yes, they can grow into their neighbor, but even when they grow into their neighbor and you break them apart, they still do not suffer transplant shock like a potted transplant that has tangled roots. Any new cool flowers you've discovered since the book? That is what I talk about in Cool Flowers Beyond the Book online course. Stock is one of them, and Atriplex. Both of those are in our catalog, and online you can read about them. So somebody's asking, can you root the pussy willow bought from a market? Yes, you can. That's how I got mine. And so please send Bobo to my farm. You know that I made a hashtag, Go Bobo Go. I mean, the three of us are like, and my niece Kelly, the four of us are like the dream team. Could you use coconut coir instead of peat? Yes. Yes, you started too early, Jackie. It's too early for cosmos. You can't plant them out until the soil temperature is up to 60 degrees at night. You got a long time to go. So, gang, this is it. I thank you so much for being here. Remember, I don't have my paper. Wait, let me look at my paper. I may forget to tell you something. We looked under the covers. So remember to go to thegardenersworkshop.com, go to the fresh flower food on the store and claim the free article, Making the Most Out of Your Cut Flowers. And then I will see you again next week. Hope to see some of you guys in my travels. Now is the time. You will save so much time taking a week and reading my book, Vegetables Love Flowers, right now while you can't really garden much. It will save you so much time with problems in the garden come this season. So that book is my heart and soul, and I just want everybody to read it. Cool Flowers is wonderful, too, but we all know about that, right? We've been doing it for a while. So wait a minute. One last question, and then I'm out of here. Becca, do the cool flowers that like light to germinate need a break from the light, too, like 8 hours off? Your light should be on 16 hours a day. So, yes, that gives them a break of 6 hours. So, thank you, guys. Till we meet again. Ciao.